Jesteśmy aktualnie na Starym Mieście i będziemy szli na walking tour, czyli będą nas oprowadzać po mieście i tłumaczyć tutaj wszystko. Byliśmy na dokładnie takim samym walking tourze w San Cristóbal de las Casas w Meksyku i w San Salvador w El Salvador. Polecam takie tury oprowadzania po mieście, ponieważ lokal was wtedy oprowadza, tłumaczy wam wszystko, opowiada historię, pokazuje fajne miejsca i tak dalej. I to działa na tej zasadzie, że się bukujecie i potem dajecie mu tipa, po prostu tyle, ile uważacie za stosowne, żeby mu dać. Ten walking tour tutaj, co jest charakterystyczne dla niego, gdzie ludzie, którzy to prowadzą, są ubrani na czerwono i są z czerwonymi parasolkami. Wiedzę. No, więc zaraz zaczynamy.
Of 360 years of slavery and later 100 years of readaptation to a culture that has always rejected people because of the heritage of the society of caste. This is your skin color defines your position and all these many things. So this is things from the past that still affect our present. And the idea is that by the end of the tour we get to understand all of these things and have a global visual idea of what Cartagena is.
Jesteśmy właśnie w parku, w którym wypuścili leniwce z zoo, ponieważ zamknęli zoo tutaj w Cartagenie i wypuścili je wolno tutaj, żeby sobie łaziły po drzewach. Więc może uda nam się jakiegoś zobaczyć.
Can make a little introduction about Zwiedzamy neighborhood. Cartagena, I'm gonna try to make the long story the shortest possible. I have to start saying the most powerful Spanish city for 200 years during 17th and 18th century. Spain's World Trade Center and Fort Knox in the Americas. Spanish never called this the Americas. They always call this the Indies because they never accepted that this was not India. That's why we call this one Cartagena, the Indias. Cartagena of the Indies, not Cartagena of the Americas, because that movement is more like the English, the German, a little bit more. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was a German guy who called this like America because of Americo Vespucci. But Spanish always called it the Indias. We believe that Christopher Columbus was looking for India all the way to the west. So he reaches the east. He wanted to reach the east all the way to the west. Well, recently we found out that first thing, Columbus was Jewish. Second thing, Columbus was not his name. Third thing, he was called Christopher Columbus, which means the pigeon that brings Christ. Because the intention of those that supported him was to spread the Catholic religion as an excuse to to spread and find new locations. That's basically what happened here. Columbus never reaches the east all the way to the west, but others will do. And that's why at a certain moment of history, when one king of Spain marries one queen of Portugal, Portuguese lands in Asia, that means India, Macau, Formosa, which is Taiwan. Portuguese and Dutch had business with Japanese that nobody else had. Carolines, Philippines, belong to Spain because of the King Carlos and the King Philip. All of this is in Southwest Asia. Spanish are gonna get profits from there, but Spain is on the Atlantic and all of this is on the Pacific. The former route of silk was no longer working, so they needed to create their route of silver. That includes leaving from there, reaching San Francisco, then Acapulco, then get through Panama, and then make a forceful stop here. Because Cartagena is the safest, nicest, more beautiful port with the best conditions to the south of the Caribbean, right before Panama. Good so far? I don't want you to get lost in history, because you were bringing goods from there, but don't forget, goods from Bolivia, Peru, Quito, Guayaquil, which is Ecuador, Colombia's Pacific, Colombia in general was brought to Cartagena safe before it goes to Spain. Then you need to take care of the business. Spanish are the first pirates to arrive, and because finders keepers, they controlled everything first. And in order to keep the business, they are going to bring the marquis, the count, viscounts, nobility class secretaries and ministers of the King of Spain to control the business here. This nobility class is going to demand that they are giving at least the smallest portion of comfortability and safety. And for this reason, they need to build fortresses, walls, bastions, strongholds, and palaces on the neighborhood that we're gonna see later. But The nobility were not workers. They wanted not to make the dirty job and build. It was prohibited to enslave the natives because the Vatican was giving a budget financing the conquer of the New World. Don't go killing the natives, make him Catholic. They start to have trouble. They first thing they open gates for everybody to come. And that allows Moresque, Mudehar, Hispano-Arabic, Sephardites and Spanish Muslim to come here. But they are not gonna settle on the neighborhood of the viceroyalty. They are gonna settle on the neighborhood of the workers' class, which is there where we're going. Still, they will live here for about 1 century, because on the early 17th, Inquisition comes and most of them escape. And their population is replaced by the native mixed that descend from Spanish. By the end of 16th century, then the workers, servants are replaced with the slaves brought African into slavery in Cartagena from Congo, Angola, Senegal, Ghana, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Mozambique and Ethiopia. It is them who are gonna build everything, yes, commanded by the Spanish, that were paying everything with the gold of the indigenous. So the Italian do the design of the fortresses, Moresque do the design of the city, but at the end of the day, it was the African going to the quarry, producing the materials, producing the stone, bringing them here, and giving their lives to build everything. So Cartagena is a world heritage because it belongs to an immense population of the world. All of this is during the colonial time. Yes, there was people here before colonial, the natives. And after the colonial times, with the end, it begins the independence and the modern era. It's like three films, 3 movies, part of one trilogy. The first part of the trilogy, pre-Hispanics, second part, colonial, third part, the modernity. In modernity, all of this indigenous, Spanish, African, and the mixing, mulatto from Spanish, mestizo, perdón, Spanish indigenous, mulatto, Spanish African, Sambo, indigenous African, coexist, all of us together, making the 75% of Cartagena's population. Gethsemane then is the neighborhood of the workers' class. What we're gonna see there is how most of the houses, that one has a balcony, that one has balconies because this is like the exterior, more influenced by the other side. But on the Spanish times, most of the houses of Gethsemane did not have a balcony. It's important for you that you make a difference between original real colonial balconies out of wood and imitation balconies out of cement.
Zobaczcie, jak ładnie tutaj wygląda. Flagi powieszone są do góry, widać te balkoniki, o których mówił. Idziemy właśnie przez tą część historyczną.
There are little details on the buildings that you can tell that they are like Moresque, like Arabesque, a little bit we could also say. Ladies and gentlemen, usually when I go down this street, I make an explanation about music. But people is here free to do whatever they want. And a little ahead, there is some music. So that means that a battle will begin when I pass through there with my music against that noise. That is why I am going to explain my music here. And then we go there and we'll see what happens. Everything has to do with a painting that there is right to the other side. Have you ever heard? It's Coasterners Colombian music. We call it accordion music, but people get this music confused with vallenato. Vallenato does not necessarily has to be fun. Usually vallenato music is played with accordion, but also with guitar. And vallenato, just the vallenato, always talks about love. Either love is beginning or love just ended. It's like I love you, I want to give you the moon and the stars, or give those stars and moon back to me, I hate you. See? That's vallenato. But accordion music is a multiverse of music played with this instrument that comes from Germany. Colombia was re-educated Catholic by the Catholic concessions of health and schools. schools and hospitals were all Catholic. Because the government of Colombia at the moment was on a bankrupt after 70 years of a civil war. And then the government, the president makes a concession for everything, including education and health, but this one is given to the church. So missioners, doctors and teachers were always nuns or monks or priests in Colombia. Then there was time for the religion, but there was time also for, and usually they go to the forest, do the mass in the forest where there is no organ to play because there's no church. And then they replace the organ for this instrument. Then the instrument, once the mass is over, what they do is that the local, indigenous, African, or mixed descendants from either indigenous and African, even including the Spanish part of the people there, gets the instruments and they start playing their music with the instrument, and it results into this. Let's go. By the way, that is Gabriel Garcia Marquez. He's no musician. He is the Nobel Prize of Literature. Go with me, guys, this way.
Enjoy Cartagena. Welcome to the garden. When you finish work, come back here. Best time for enjoying your life. Cartagena.
O, tu fajnie jest.
Słuchajcie, byliśmy tutaj dzisiaj, w sumie wczoraj wieczorem. Było tutaj pełno ludzi, macie przebitki właśnie tam wrzucone z telefonu. I zupełnie inaczej to wygląda teraz, za dnia, niż jak było wieczorem.
Cartagena's, I would even dare to say, Colombia's most, to me, the most interesting place there is, because it contains everything that represents Cartagena. First thing, the place is historical. We have an ancient church of the late 16th century, Church of La Trinidad, built by 1570s. We have this space that allows people to gather. People has gathered here for 4 centuries or more, of course, since the place exists. And this is also the place where the independence of Cartagena started, represented here with this guy. Friends, let me tell you, this guy is Cuban. Sometimes we believe because in modernity we were given limits by nations, by new countries, but don't forget that Cuba, Cartagena, Mexico, Peru, all of this was Spanish back on 16th, 17th, and 18th century. So even during 19th century, Cuba in Havana is like Cartagena is like 2 versions of the same story. Spanish port to extract treasures. From Cartagena, the goods go to Havana, but they needed to wait in Cartagena approximately 6 months because we had Alice's winds and hurricane season. So the sailing boats needed to wait the appropriate time to sail to Havana. Sometimes they even need to wait for 1 year. That is why there was people traveling from Cuba to Cartagena very often, at least once a year. That's why it's no weird that we have this man being habanero, but exactly matancero. From Cuba, Pedro Romero. This is the man that is going to lead the independence of Cartagena. You may be wondering, why would we become independent? The answer is very simple. The tyranny of the royalty of the moment. Actually, it does not have to do with no nationality or Spanish or anything, no. The problem is that some people was taking advantage over others by situations that had to do with the society of caste, your skin color, and these things. I insist on this, because back on the day, this will put you situations on different locations. The fact that you are not born in Spain, but born here, doesn't allow you to become nobility class. You couldn't occupy important positions. You couldn't elect your own government. And you were still paying taxes to Spain for sending them our money. So people here was waiting for the right time to say it is time to go independent. Napoleon kind of made us a favor a little bit. considering that he invaded Spain. Spain goes weak, and when Spain was weak, people here decides it is now or never, let's go independent. This man led a group of 300 people that gathered around here on November 11, 1811. And from here went to where we're gonna be later, the Customs Square, and later the Proclamations Square, where they claimed we go independent or we die. But independence of Cartagena was peaceful. Cartagena becomes a country on its own, like a sovereign state during 4 years. Later, they will be defeated by the Spanish. But Cartagena will be defeated, but it will later be avenged by Simon Bolivar. But still the city was weak, and it was never back to be the powerful port that it was during 2 centuries. Then Cartagena has no other option but to join the country that was soon to be created, Colombia. Before this, anything like Colombia ever existed. Colombia is a country that results from joining the Spanish provinces that go independent and become a new country called Colombia on behalf of Columbus. Guys, this is my favorite square in Cartagena because here, whenever I am feeling like I am dying of boredom, I go to that shop. I buy 1 liter of beer. What? Yes, 1 liter of beer. 1 liter of beer is $2. There. It will never be served on glass. It will be served on plastic cups because glass is restricted in Cartagena. The reason is simple. People get angry and then they start throwing bottles. So better control the bottles. So you'll be served the 1 liter in like two or 3 or 4 cups, depending on the size. And if you're coming alone, you're gonna be sitting here, and somebody will see the cups and say like, "Hey, what are you gonna do with all that beer?" And then you start making friends. If you come with friends, much better. 1 liter, 2 liter, 3 liter, 4 liter, and then you start to feel nice. When you start to feel nice, what you have to do is this. Down the way, there are the 3 most festive or party-zone alley of Colombia. Callejón Ancho, Callejón Angosto, y Calle de Lomba. Whenever you want to have fun in Cartagena by 7 or 8 p.m., come around here. And what you're going to find is fiesta de barrio. People makes party on the street. Guys, let me tell you, it's true that it's fun and you have a good time. But there is something about this situation. The same way Cartagena claimed resistance on November 11, 1811, the local people of Gethsemane is resisting. What are they resisting? They are resisting the high taxes, the unreachable prices on public services, the augmentation on the price of the usage of the soil, because these people is being pushed, leave their neighborhood by the investors and the government who are pushing them by raising the taxes, so all of this becomes only touristic. If you want to see where do families, local people live in Cartagena, is here. We're going to pass through there quickly and then we'll start our way back. But when we get through there, that's why you see kids playing on the street, because this is the domestic neighborhood of Cartagena. You go to the other side, it's completely gentrified. Here, gentrification is still having a hard time against the resistance of the people of Gethsemane. So in order to resist, what do? All right, they open a local business. It is a sacrifice because Cartagena people likes to take things easy. So it's like at home is a place to take a rest and work is somewhere else. But when you have to make a business at home, but the only thing that they can do is a business that has to do with party. Better make like happy hour, cocktail drinks all night, 2 on the price of 1 around that area. Then you get 1 cocktail, 2 cocktails, 3 cocktails is actually 6. 4 is 8. You're ready. It's up to you to stay on the Fiesta de Barrio or come back here, because at night you have all kind of street artists making people have fun, be entertained in this place. You have from the other world coming on a bicycle, Michael Jackson. And Then he starts dancing the moonwalker all over the square. Or from a different multiverse, you have the male version of Shakira with a belly on a bikini dancing. Hips don't lie. Here. Or other many artists are gonna make you be entertained in this location. You wanna make your, if you like to have a more wild party, then you have to go other places. You have to go down the way and reach, for example, Havana, where one beer is $10. $10 is the price of a pack of 4 six-packs. It's up to you.
Powiem wam, że przepaść między tym, co się tutaj działo wczoraj i tym, jak tu jest spokojnie i cicho dzisiaj, jest naprawdę ogromna. Ja bym się w życiu nie spodziewała, że tak naprawdę się wczoraj przez przypadek i że to tak wygląda w nocy. Naprawdę. A teraz patrzcie, no sklepiki jakieś, delikatna muzyka, a wczoraj po prostu było pełno ludzi, jakieś stoliki na ulicach, no wow.
This is tradition. Every single day, this is what they do. Playing dominoes. It's lost.
Blessing, 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 Brasil. Blessing, blessing, blessing. Hey, tú te grabas el video, claro que cantando no copeo. Lo sube para el Instagram y le das like un video. Porque sé que tú quieres meterle, pegarle, que tengo el estilo para ti, no vale que soy rapero que hey, bien original. Too much after Pablo Escobar. Hey, Rocky Balboa, Rocky Balboa, Rocky Balboa, Rocky Balboa. Ey, ojo te cae, sigue grabando. Y you are the pop como Johnny Bravo. Eres el patrón, andas en night. You fucking opa, hola, turma. Hey, 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 chigridale, chigridale. Hey, hey,
Gracias!
my friend, esto sabe ahora. Y for el video.
Powiem wam, że robią urok te małe uliczki tutaj ciasne. Wszystkie tutaj te malowidła, co ci ludzie tutaj malują i tak dalej, te murale, fajnie to wygląda. A no wieczorem, no tak jak widzieliście wcześniej nagrałem, tutaj jest ogień.
You may have noticed, I'm sure you have, that here in Gethsemane, there is a lot of street art. What's the thing about the street art? Thing is that Gethsemane, nobody expected that Gethsemane was gonna be touristy 50 years ago. 50 years ago, nobody expected that Cartagena was gonna be Columbia touristy jewel. My grandmother and my grandfather were born in this street. My father was also born in this street. Don't ask me what's the house because I don't know. But what I know is that grandma decides to leave, to abandon this street the day this movie theater was burnt. They were asking to put a movie, but they didn't have the movie. People was mad at the place, and they started throwing, first thing, excrement. Later, somebody came and burned the place. Still burned, you can see. 1973.
A widać do
Place
góry
gets
jak
abandoned.
to miejsce
People
było
consider
spalone.
that Gethsemane is no longer a friendly neighborhood, and little by little, they fall into the fashion of abandoning the old town and going for a living outside of the wall. That is the way the neighborhood where I was born begins. I was born in the neighborhood outside of the wall, which is called Torices, with the people from Gethsemane who no longer wants to live here. Many houses were abandoned. Then Colombia is going to have this drug war. I need you to come a little closer because I want to make a little bit less noise about this that I am going to explain. Everybody knows about Colombia's drug war. Okay. But possibly you don't know about something called La Bonanza Marimbera. Have you ever heard that term? Bonanza Marimbera. Bonanza Marimbera means that before everything goes to by the drug war, there were profits out of this. And people had some sort of a quality of a lifestyle based on the business of the drug. all of us, we all had either an uncle or a cousin who was on the business. That every December arrived for Christmas with 2 suitcases full of US dollars. Profits of the business. And then, new outfit for grandma, new outfit for grandpa. Paint the house. Kill half a cow for Christmas party and let the other half alive for New Year's party. Then, 2 weeks of a party at home. Everybody get a new toy, new dress, new shoes. Until one night, December the 3rd, 1992, they shot Escobar. Yes, things were wrong in Medellin and in Bogota with the bombs. Cartagena was a little bit isolated of the thing. But the problem is that when they shoot Escobar and he dies, then the drug lords start to battle among themselves. And that's the end of the bonanza marimbera, because people was not having like a quality of life because of the drug, and it's the beginning of the drug war. I was a kid back on the day, and I have good memories until I was watching the Bugs Bunny show, and then breaking news, Escobar is shot. So since then, everything starts to change because there is more pressure on the drug lords. Cartagena was the kind of places that based its business on partying and having fun. And how can you separate, at most chances, how can you separate fun away from the drugs 100%? So then what they try is that the drug lords try to bring the labs the closest to Cartagena, also because here there is the port, and they could smuggle them from here to Panama. If they reach Panama, they are okay, because it was out of Colombia's control. But they needed to send it away from Cartagena, so the war comes here. And in 1997, 2 bombs. In 1998, another 2 bombs. One of these bombs in Cartagena, 2 travelers of a cruise ship died. And cruises consider that Cartagena is no longer safe and stop coming Cartagena. So for a country, for a city, that the 35 up to the 40% of its population makes a living on tourism, it was a low hit. The city goes desperate. People everything becomes a mess. Crime increases. And then the city was militarized. I was starting to be a teenager back on that moment. And when I think of it, because I understood that not so long ago, I was a kid back on the day, and the only thing I thought was on video games. But then I think of that, and I remember now why at every corner in Cartagena there was a military. Because the only way they could give the idea that the city was safe is military at every corner, everywhere in Cartagena. Then efforts became harder. Finally, they take the last drug lords, they send them extradited. Then they need to work to re-educate the people into don't harm the travelers, don't go there ripping off the travelers. One of the persons who was part of this re-education was my father, who was a tour guide and also was a history and tourism teacher. And I was there watching how people was getting prepared to make Cartagena the destination it is today. Places like this, like Gethsemane, needed to be projected into becoming touristic places. But it's difficult when some owners of some places just don't pay more attention to their properties. That's why the neighbors of Gethsemane have decided to make of these abandoned buildings canvas for street art. And in 2013, we had our first street art fair. Recently, it is harder to find this kind of, what can you call it? Abstract street art? Graffiti. And we try to make something more that shows more our folklore, our culture, and our identity. You know these people who's painted here, do you? Who's the guy on the white, on the yellow t-shirt? Valderrama. Who is the man with the guitar? Juanes, tengo la camisa negra, hoy mi amor está de luto, tengo mi amor una pena y es por culpa de tu embrutis. Juanes. Bing, 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 bing. Don't you know it?
Of course.
Colombia's rock. Colombia's Spanish. Se habla español. How about the one on the right, on the white T-shirt? I will not blame you if you don't know him. He's not much known out of the Latin American world. Carlos Vives. But you know his song, La Fantástica. How about the girl in the blonde hair showing that hips don't lie? Right. And how about this man? Joey Arroyo. Or carnival or nothing. The decoration is still here the whole year, all the time. Possibly it has to do with 60 or 70 years ago, or 80, when down there was the station of the train, and people leave the train to get through here into the neighborhood. Guys, this is one of the most iconic corners of Gethsemane.
Słuchajcie, mamy leniwca. Jest bardzo blisko generalnie, od razu tutaj pełno ludzi było, więc od razu go zobaczyliśmy. Słuchajcie, nie opłacało się w Kostaryce za $40, macie w Kolumbii i w parku za darmo. Ale piękny jest.
To był profesjonalny pokaz czampety, czyli tutejszego tańca, który bazował trochę na muzyce afrykańskiej, która była przetłumaczona na hiszpańską. Potem ludzie zaczęli do tego tańczyć. Miało to pewne tam powiązania z agresją. Pan tam tłumaczył, że ludzie nosili noże pod pazukami, potem je wyciągali i te ruchy mają to imitować. Oczywiście to potem zostało przekształcone w urban champecza, to się pan to tak nazwał, czyli taką miejską, po prostu miejski taniec, na którym teraz właśnie bazuje cały ten układ, który widzieliście. Mam nadzieję, że podobało wam się, jak chłopaki tańczyli. To była dzielnica mieszkańców takich rdzennych tutaj Cartageny. Teraz idziemy do dzielnicy historycznej, Centro Histórico, gdzie będzie na pewno widać więcej wpływów hiszpańskich i też na pewno więcej historii się dowiemy, także zaraz zobaczymy, jak to wygląda.
This gate, you see the lines on the ground, is to show how long it reached the lifting bridge as far as there. Because all of this was water. Can you believe me? Everything that is on red cobble, on red bricks, paved cobblestone on the roads, on the streets or the squares, is because it's being filled in, lifted. Because Cartagena is slowly sinking. It was built on sand, and the buildings are heavy, and the level of the sea raises, and the sand seeds, and then very, very slowly, possibly in 50 years, Cartagena will be the Venice of the Caribbean. That is why whenever you see the red floor, it's being lifted and filled in. So there was a march between here and Gethsemane. Gethsemane was the workers' class, the neighborhood of the party, because this door is going to be shut at 6 p.m. back on colonial times. Permanent curfew. If you don't enter when the time is over, you have no other choice but to stay in Gethsemane. What you going to be doing in Gethsemane? Party. Next day, when they open 5 a.m., you enter into the neighborhood. If you want a marquis, a count, a viscount, a baron, a knight of order, you enter through here. Red carpet, fanfare. Here comes Braulio Gonsalvo, the marquis of the bucket of cold water. Yes, let's go. So this is how we get to see that Cartagena has the three neighborhoods. First neighborhood, the yellow part, which we call Centro. Big area down that way on the same circle of the wall. Third neighborhood, Gethsemane, that we visited first today. Here we have, and in this place, Customs Square, the statue of the founder of Cartagena. Somebody know the name of the statue?
Pedro.
That's cheating. Pedro de Heredia, the founder of Cartagena, back in 1533. Pedro de Heredia is gonna make friends with the native indigenous warlords, and after he makes friends with them, he talks wrong about the other, so that creates a conflict, an internal conflict that ends on civil war among the native warlords, killing themselves. When Pedro de Heredia comes again, he finds the population is reduced, easy to control. But on the ashes of the remaining, he finds that there were little figures, the little jaguar, the little bear, a little crocodile out of gold. You want to see these little things I'm talking about? You are invited to go to the Gold Museum, not on the tour, on your free time. Starts 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. Tuesday to Sunday, not on Mondays is their hangover day. Tuesday to Sunday, and then you will see the pre-Hispanic gold that made the Spanish fall in love with this location. Guys, do you like candy? Candy, do you like candy? You want to give a try to local Colombia's candy, then what you have to do is walk that hall, which is called the Candy's Hall. And there you will find all the variety of the Cartagena's homemade candy. Guys, this is the Cartagena's first square. We're gonna see this square, the Carriages Square. Coming up next, the Customs Square. After that, the San Pedro Square with the church, and right after that, we do the last stop and we finish the tour. Come with me, this way please. Just like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 6 little balconies. That's the first customs house. When the Spanish arrived, they were not expecting to find all the treasures that they actually found. So immediately they believed that they could check everything and leave the place empty and go away. But the more they advance into the territory, the more they discover. So Cartagena has to become capital of the viceroyalty of the new kingdom of Grenade. That's gonna make that we have to have one viceroy who lived on that house. Domingo de Miranda y Llanos is the first viceroy, the Marquis of the Royal Prize. The title, Marquis of Royal Prize, is still active and it still exists in Spain. All of the space on the square is because this was the main place for commerce and trading, like the marketplace, for the fair of galleons and ships from Sevilla. In the customs house, taxes were paid, especially one tax that is known as the Royal Fifth, or El Quinto Real. El Quinto Real is like the fifth part of everything in favor of the king. This tax still exists in some places, like consumption tax, or IVA, or La TVA, or something different place. Now, let's say 5 pineapples. I am a merchant of pineapples. 5 pineapples pass the square. 1 is for the king. But because the pineapple will be all rotten and it will not make its way to Spain, what they do is weigh, and the price is paid in silver or gold. When the amount was not possible to divide in 5, they weigh the whole amount and the weight is divided in 5, and then you pay. That worked with all merchandise, and sadly, that also worked with people brought from Africa into slavery. Slavery is an important and delicate subject to talk in Cartagena, because we're talking about 360 years of slavery that include more than 30 million Africans brought to Cartagena. 2/3 of them were sold and sent to other locations, but the remaining third stays in Cartagena. You may find out that in terms of ethnicity, the local Cartagena descendants of African are usually not the tallest, biggest, muscle one. No, it's the smallest. It's the smallest, smarter one, because those were the one that were clever to escape. And they escape from their masters. But slavery is gonna finish by 1861, and then they start to come to the city and kind of adapt into the newborn society of Cartagena. But long before that happens, Africans were sold on auctions here, in this place, at the customs square. There was a group that was never sold. That group is brought to the quarry to work producing the stones for the buildings in Cartagena. I want to show you those stones, the material Cartagena is built on. Come with me this way. Touch it.
No, adobe, no.
No, esto es coralina. Caliza. Guys, look at the stone. Limestone. The stone corrodes when loses the contact with humidity from the ground. Look at the square again. Look at the square and you will see that it's like a globe, because it has been uplifted, because it was flawed all the time. I remember when I was a kid, there were 3 steps under the pillars of the arcade of the bay of the city hall. 3 steps. Now those 3 steps don't exist because it got all flooded. And that's why we needed to hire the Dutch. Dutch in the tour? One of the Dutch in the tour. No Dutch this time. Dutch. They are going to raise it. And the stagnate water or the flood is still below. But it lost contact with the house. So the stone is becoming dust. This material, Spanish already knew that it could eventually happen. That is why they will give a try with this one. Come with me. Closer. Touch it. Can somebody tell me what this is? Somebody? What is it? No. Coral. Come touch it. Come. Feel it on your hand.
Touch it.
Wow. I want you to feel what my ancestors felt. Come. Come and touch it. Use your 5 senses. Touch the stone. Touch stone.
the coral.
Yes, it's coral. Please touch the stone. It is impossible to calculate the amount of ancestors of ours from Africa that died processing these stones, because they needed to enter the dead coral reef. Have you been to the islands already? Rosario Island? When you go, you're gonna see that the islands, Baru, Rosario Island, Cholon Island, are coralline islands. And then you need to enter the dead coral reef barefooted, because Africans were not allowed to wear shoes. And this stone cuts. Bring the biggest pieces. It had to be a bigger piece to sculpt it into a smaller like this. And I'm saying this is a small one. They have to be cooked, so they release the carbonate calcium, which is used as a mortar to place them together. This material was too hard. That material was too soft. Italian will come to Cartagena and they say, you don't need to use neither the one or the other, you have to use them both. Cook them together and produce a new reconstituted stone. Can you see that all the bricks used in this building, which is the San Pedro Church, are very much geometrical, symmetrical? Do you see? It's different from this. It's hard to make them equal because the stone is very hard. They need to get pieces of this with pieces of that, cook them together on a mold that becomes that. 5,000 Celsius, high temperature of gigantic ovens at the Tierra Bomba Island, and from there bring it here and build this, make these immense buildings like the Church of San Pedro Claver. This with the limestone, the coral, is fused with the limestone. The walls, the fortresses, the bastions, the strongholds, the castles, the churches, the temples, the convents, monasteries, colonial houses, palaces, and all colonial buildings starting on 17th century are made on this material. Did you know? Did you know about it?
No.
Now you know, and I'm happy to tell you about this. The Spanish were bad, and it's true, not all of them. This is one good example. Pedro Claver, Catalonian Jesuit missionary, famous for setting free 3,000 Africans in 25 years. What would he do? He's gonna go to the Africans that are sick, and with the pretext that they are sick, bring them to the Jesuit school, heal them, and once they're healed, set them free. That's why he's patron saint of human rights, and that is why he's a saint of the Catholic Church, and one of the most famous characters in Cartagena, Pedro Claver Corbero. His remains are inside the church. Now there is the mass, but we are on tour. When you have free time, you can enter the church. It only opens for mass. Go to the end, on the lowest part of the altar, you see his bones. Pedro Claver, the servant of servants, a slave to the Africans, a slave of the slaves. The man right here. Let me just tell you that the wall is a fortress that surrounds all of the city for about originally 6 kilometers. For today we only have 4. Braulio, I saw on the internet that it's 12. No, not 12 kilometers. You can walk all of the surrounding of the wall in an hour, and you are still on good energies. But you cannot reach the border of the city, which is 10 kilometers from here, not even in walking for 3 hours. So no way the wall has 12 kilometers. The wall is 6 kilometers maximum, but the construction, the area that is built, is only 4 kilometers of the wall. Can you walk it? Yes, of course. Starting from here, all the way up to the place where there is La Cerrezuela, which is the former bullfight of 19th century bullfight ring that is now a shopping mall. From here until there, it takes 2.5 kilometers. And the remaining 1.5 kilometers is on Gethsemane. But in case you want to walk all of the wall all over around. This area right here is just next to the Charleston's Hotel, which is called the Royalty Hotel. The hotel where when you have like a prince or a queen of here or there, or the duke of this or the duke of that, they always stay in that hotel. It doesn't look much of a luxury from outside, but it's a lot of luxury inside.
Co, mam nadzieję, że spodobał Wam się ten walking tour. Pan fajnie opowiadał. Myślę, że zahaczył trochę historii. Zobaczyliśmy też leniwca w tym parku. Chodzimy sobie po tym murze, który on właśnie powiedział. Idziemy się przejść kawałek. I na tym kończymy dzisiejszy dzień.
Długi to był dzień.
Długi to dzień. No, pamiętajcie, żeby subskrybować kanał, dawać łapeczkę w górę i komentarz do zasięgu. Widzimy się jutro.